All right. Welcome, everybody. This is All Minus One. My name is Bill. And with me today, I have a special guest. This is Mr. Will Hyman from the West Virginia Libertarian Party. He is the party chairman. Will, I hear a little echo in the background. I don't know how high your volume's up. I don't use headphones myself. So if that's an issue, let me check your
How's
audio.
that? Is that a little better?
Yeah. Yeah. Echo cancellation. Yeah. All right. So, right now, usually when I start, there's a few people here and they pour in. But right now, I saw yesterday when I came in today that I actually set the schedule for yesterday. I usually do the stream, make the stream the day of. So I saw some comments in there. So hopefully some people will come in here and we'll have a little bit of a chat. But before we get too far into the conversation, guys, I just have to tell you that I can't stream for long today. I have a wake to go to. A good friend of mine, his mother passed away, which he was expecting. She'd been ill for a while. So can't be here for a long time. And of course, I will be back Wednesday over on the Ends Justify the Memes, a different channel, as you all know. I was going to stream on Rumble today, but it couldn't quite get it rolling. So maybe next Sunday I'll have that figured out. With all that, let's get to our guests. So I'm not rude here with all of my my housekeeping. And Will, would you like to talk about yourself and what you guys been doing in the state, or introduce yourself however you like?
Sure. My name's Will Hyman, and I live here in Clarksburg, West Virginia. I became the chair of the Libertarian Party in April of 2019. I've been involved in the state Libertarian Party since about 2014, which culminated in 2018 with a run for West Virginia House of Delegates here in the 48th district of West Virginia. And I didn't do well, obviously, but I did secure nearly 3% of the vote. We have a multi-member district, a four-person multi-member district in the state house. So, there was 4 Democrats, 4 Republicans, and 1 Libertarian. And there was also 1 independent on the ballot as well. And so the following year, I ran for. I live in Clarksburg, like I said, and I ran for Clarksburg City Council. And this was right after that initial House race, and I came in middle of the pack out of 12 people. And of course, then COVID hit. And I was planning on running for House delegates just to be on the ballot. And I did that again. And after another campaign in 2021, I ran for Clarksburg City Council again, and I won. I came in 3rd place in a race of 4 people, and I'm sorry, where they picked 4 candidates out of I think there was 10 candidates total, and I came in 4th. So I did secure a spot on Clarksburg City Council. So right now I'm serving I think I'm 8 months into my term on City Council, and that's about it for me, I guess, as introduction goes.
And how does that go, City Council, just generally speaking? Because a lot of people don't really get involved in local politics. I preach that here a lot.
Sure.
A lot of the people I talk with in our little small sphere of YouTube, we're always preaching local. Get off and get out and create your own thing, and don't worry about the feds. Don't worry about the state. Concentrate on your local area, because they can only do so much, the feds and the state. And if your local area doesn't agree with them, most likely you guys are going to hold fast to your principles, much like as an example, much like the Amish have been exempt from many things over the years, right? So how does that normally go? I'm assuming that's a part-time job, right? Pays a little bit, but you have responsibility for making sure your city runs well.
Yeah, absolutely. We have a city manager form of government. We have a 7-member council where 2 members act as mayor and vice mayor, and we have a city manager who we pay to basically be the chief executive officer of the city. And, he acts under our direction, and then we sign off on pretty much everything as far as, fiduciary stuff or, hirings within the departments and amongst other things. So, so that's pretty much how the local city government runs here. And you mentioned, our turnout here locally is horrible. I think we had 17% voter turnout here in the city limits of Clarksburg, and the top vote getter in our race got 800 votes. So
Wow.
it's I think I came in fourth, obviously at I believe it was 523 at the end. I had to go through a recount, and I guess we could talk about that here too.
Well, it's funny because I know national numbers are very different, even statewide, but local elections are a lot of people just don't vote in, and I'm of the mindset like if I don't know who you are, I don't mark the ballot.
Sure.
And a lot of people do. They just mark D or R, which I think is abysmal. It's a tragedy to do that. It's why one of the many reasons why we're in the state we're in, as a nation. But yeah, some people should know too, though. I don't know what the population of Clarksburg is, but West Virginia doesn't have a single town that has 50,000 people in it. So we have very small cities, and we have many estates that don't even have 15,000 people in them. So, there is that.
I think I'm not exactly sure where Clarksburg sits as population, compared to the other cities here, but we have roughly 15,000 people or so. There's, I think, if I remember correctly, there were 7,000 some registered voters at the time of our last race. So the turnout is absolutely horrible. But at the same time, our race is a nonpartisan race. So, people can't just go and mark Democrat, Republican, or Libertarian in my race. So, but that.
Whoa. Well, the wheel froze on me. Let's make sure that's not me. Yeah, I'm still moving.
I'm good.
Oh, you're back? You're back.
I never had an issue.
Okay. Well, it froze on the stream. I went over and checked on the other streams, so I have up running. Because I stream multiple places. You can't trust YouTube these days. Hey, Holly. Holly's our local Canadian, and another streaming friend of ours. So is there anything you've been doing while you're on the city council, or even outside of that's been trying to boost voter turnout? Or do you feel that the population's just jaded, or they're just not involved, or do you have any?
We've got a number of issues in Clarksburg when it comes to voter turnout. I think the largest one is 25% of our citizens live below poverty. We also have a very large group of seniors. It's a big demographic in our city. We also have some serious problems with drug addiction and some other issues that you might see in other maybe larger cities or even other Rust Belt cities. I classify Clarksburg as a Rust Belt city. We had several glass factories, one of the largest glass producers in the nation back in the 40s and 50s, but that's gone. At one point, our city was near 40,000 people. So,
right. This is actually why I want to talk to you and other people in the Libertarian Party, especially those who are in the Mises caucus, because I feel like I've been a lot more practical. Because I went away for a while because I had personal issues I had to take care of. I got a divorce, I became a single father, all this other stuff. But I've been involved in, personally in politics. In some manner or another behind the scenes for 15 years or something. So what I found being a classical liberal, libertarian type, is that a lot of libertarians have fantastical ideas that are not super practical or not appealing to the mass of the population, right? Because they can't conceive of it. It's too abstract for them. I think one of the biggest ones that I would note a difference in that I'm aware of is in the Mises caucus. They're not so much open borders people, but that open border strain of libertarianism has been around for a long time. I have issues with it because of obviously resources being used. And then of course there are other problems like the sex trafficking and drug trade that are going on over the border. And I'm perfectly fine with anyone taking any drug they want, but it doesn't mean that we should just allow that to be a free-for-all either, right?
Yeah.
And so I don't know. There are a couple of things there, but some thoughts on what I just said, maybe. Going
back to the borders thing, obviously, myself personally, I believe that on the national level for the last several years, or even the last several decades,
Uh-oh.
And I got involved here locally in 2014, but I'd been a libertarian since probably about 2008 with when Ron Paul came on the scene. Well,
Right.
at least Ron Paul came on the scene for me, at least. But
No, I mean, that's what got me in, man. I read The Revolution. I was going to lean that. My wife at the time always claimed she was a libertarian, but I didn't quite understand it because she never really explained it to me. So I was kind of like a just typical Republican, but I had all these liberty-minded leanings and stuff. And I have the kind of bleeding heart, not fully, but a little bit of that bleeding heart liberal side of me too. So libertarianism far more appropriate for me than either of the mainstream parties, I would say.
sure.
Um,
And going back to the whole border thing, I personally believe that we kind of exist as a nation with borders,
right.
obviously, and it's an important part of being a sovereign nation. And I think legalized immigration, as it typically goes, that maybe your family or grandparents or great grandparents experienced when they came to the United States, like mine did over 100 years ago. I think it's obviously something that we have to control when you look at it like that. We can't just have people, like you said, coming across our border illegally, trafficking children or anything like that. Obviously, that's a big issue. However, I think the Libertarian National Party over the last several decades, like I said, that I've been aware of, have made it's been such a big issue. It's something that honestly we really shouldn't be focusing on as a whole. As but let me say it. We should be focusing on it in a way that they should be secure. That's it. You know,
Right.
making it like every border has to be open. Free travel, free is going to turn a lot of people who, like you and me, maybe initially, were like, well, I'm a liberty-minded person, but we just can't have that. It's something that, like I said, it protects us as a sovereign nation that allows us to say, this is the United States, and you're welcome to come here. We just do it the right way, like everybody else has.
Right. Well, I think the most explicit analogies made about this, and some of the things when you first get into libertarian thought, is the use of force, for instance. Why is it legal? Why is it just? Why is it honored for the government to go and use force and start wars? But if an individual does it, it's a crime.
Mhm.
And so we just apply that same standard. You wouldn't just you might be hospitable and allow people into your home and even put them up for a few nights or take care of them. But you're not going to just allow them to live there forever and take advantage of you and use all your resources. It's as
Yeah,
simple as that.
sure. And
So,
that's obviously a part of the problem here on our side of the border. With entitlements and other things that
right. Right.
obviously a lot of these people are coming from the most southern countries in South America to escape some things that we don't experience here, obviously, and that makes me sympathetic to them, obviously, but when they come here and they obviously and they cross the border illegally and take advantage of those entitlements and other things, that's just kind of goes against why those programs are there to begin with and why we even have them at all, to a certain extent. So
Well, and we know the data, the economics on this, that it doesn't help anyone in those nations. Those nations continue to just slowly creep along in their living standards until they get, very good free markets going on in industry. But what it does do is it brings everyone down here in the United States on some level or another. And that is even out of the UN. I'm no fan of the UN, but sometimes their data is good. It's correct.
yeah.
So, oh, hey, Yiz, how you doing? Another friend, another YouTuber, Yiz the Eunuch. Yes, sorry. I know you keep inviting me to your show on Mondays. I've been working like 10, 12-hour days on Mondays, so just not a possibility for me. So for Will, to catch you up, I was unemployed for a while just doing this, and I just started working. So, I know we had a mutual friend that helped connect us here, and that we were talking before the holidays or something, and holidays happened. My family got coronavirus, and then I started working this new job, and it was just crazy. So,
Yeah.
In any case, yeah. So, let's get back to West Virginia though, because I want to focus more on that.
Okay.
I just was throwing some of those things out there because when people hear libertarianism, they think ANCAP right away. This is my experience, right? And I experimented, like the thought experiment with being, you know, an ANCAP for 2 or 3 years. I seriously would have considered myself one. In fact, I love the idea of it. I find it just as utopian as communism, though, because I feel as if it discounts human nature. And, you know, I've read Rothbard and all that stuff, and I just don't agree with the guy, you know, when it comes to going that direction. I don't think that it really takes into account good and evil. And I believe those things are real. I'm a Christian. I believe that that is a real thing.
Mhm.
So, but getting back to the local issue, what do you think liberty-minded politics can do for local people, and what have you been trying to do for local people as best you can? I know, you know, you're working with other city council members. You can only do so much, right?
Sure. Well, one of the biggest examples we just got hit with, we have a newer city manager that started right before I got my seat on council. He's probably been there nearly 2 years now, maybe. And obviously, they've been dealing with the coronavirus pandemic as far as, you know, federal funding and other things. So we're getting $6.3 million from the federal government through ARPA, the American Rescue Plan Act. And we also got $3-some million in the CARES Act. That was the first money that went out from the federal government. And so we're trying to figure out how to spend that right now. Obviously, we have some major infrastructure issues. You know, we are an old city. You know, I think Clarksburg's founded in 1785 or something like that, back when Virginia was, you know, the entire state. So,
Right.
you know, we've been around for a long time. Excuse me, 1795. But anyway, you know, we've been around for quite some time. We have a aging infrastructure. You know, we also found out recently that we have a lead issue in our city, and so we're going to get some money for that as well to fix some of these pipes. However, there seems to be this idea in some members on council that you know, this money should be used to go big or go home with certain, you know, projects that you know, as a libertarian, or maybe even as you know, as a conservative, will be like, I don't know about that. You know, that seems a little excessive. So, you know, my focus is on spending the money wisely. We have to treat this lead water issue, and without going into too much detail, our water board, we have a separate private water board that's elected. Well, I guess you could call it public, but they have elections just like the city council does, and they are a separate entity from the city of Clarksburg. They have their own budget, they have their own fees and rates. So the lead issue is technically theirs, but as a city, we have to help them out, and they're going to help us out, and we have to treat the water after they're going to put some, I guess, a chemical into the water that calcifies the pipes to prevent lead reaching out into the water. So we have to treat that water because the wastewater is the city's business. So we have to treat that water before it hits the West Fork River. That's the West Fork of the Monongahela River, and treat it, because the EPA will fine us if we don't. So you know, we have to spend about $1 million on that just to fix that. Of course, we have stormwater and other issues with our wastewater treatment plant we have to fix, and you know, I'm thinking that's going to come close to $3 million. So
right, a lot of the state people don't know it's a watershed area because of the mountains and all the rivers and whatever else. So yeah, yeah, and it's I'm sure it's a constant thing. It's interesting because you mentioned the infrastructure, and I always talk about how good some of the highways and roads are because of Senator Robert Byrd years ago. But no fan of his per se, but just saying, you know, he got a lot of federal money into West Virginia. But I feel that that's an old breed of West Virginians that were the Democrats, that were the kind of progressive breed. Let's get some money from the feds. And what we are seeing now, at least what I've observed, is the loss of people in our state. But yet we have a beautiful state with a ton of resources and a ton of ability to run business if we did it properly, if people would invest, if they would come in. But instead of, say, you on the city council trying to get federal money or whatever, wouldn't it be great if you could get some businesses in the Clarksburg that would be like, hey, here's a big industry, I'm going to employ a lot of people, and we're going to give some money to the city to help this problem, you know, work it out as a community.
Oh yeah, I mean, absolutely. I mean, I think so. But as a libertarian, you know, we can only make that environment, you know, friendly for businesses or other people to come live in our city and our state. You know, yeah, we have to, you know, to lower our taxes, make it a tax-friendly state, and you know, that's being done at the state level right now. And we do it at the city level. You know, we offer certain B&O business and occupation taxes that phase in over a period of 5 years. We also create districts where, you know, if you build a new property or start a business in that area with so many employees, you get basically tax breaks. Now, is it the most libertarian way to do things? No, but it's, you know, it's better than possibly you know, using the federal money or using our own taxpayer money, which that's what that federal money is, obviously, to go out on a limb and build you know, a stadium or a hotel or a conference center. And that's some of the things that I hear. And you know, I think it's the mentality of, you know, if you build it, they will come. But I think that
that's not how it works
make
at
it
all.
friendly, and they will, you know, make it easy to make money, and people will come. That's what it's all about. I mean, that's what capitalism is all about, obviously.
Right. If you build it and they would come thing was a reality, then any amount of money anywhere spent would always be the solution, and it usually isn't necessarily. Like, you need money, obviously, it's a resource. But you know, we've seen this in schools where they just dump money into the schools. They get all this technology, yet the kids still drop out. The kids still aren't learning anything because they're not focusing on the problem. We see this in all kinds of cities. The city I grew up in, Hagerstown, Maryland, before I moved down here to West Virginia, they do this stuff all the time. Their city council, I used to work in the county government there, but their city council, in my opinion, is absolutely corrupt, because you got a lot of business people in there that want to prop up their businesses, make certain promises, yada, yada, yada. But yeah, that seems to be the nature, right, of power, the seduction of power. And it sounds like that's what you're facing with this federal grant money. And most likely what will happen is they'll build a nice building, no one will come, and you guys will waste millions and millions of dollars, you know?
Well, I mean, we have a standing structure in our city right now that was built with taxpayer money. They actually use the idea of a 1% sales tax in our city limits to fund the restoration of a historic movie theater. And this movie theater is it's very nice. It's a very nice facility. It's a very nice venue, but it to the tune of $20-some million. Now, we got a letter, from what I understand, we got lots of grants to fund that. But it's part of a requirement. It's like we have to continually operate it. And right now, if I remember correctly, the yearly mortgage on it is nearly $500,000 a year. So then we have to pay the staff to operate it. We have to have volunteers and others, which is, you know, it's better than having full-time employees. But, you know, volunteers come in and make popcorn and be ushers and stuff like that. But like I said, it's a great venue, but it's a huge liability. I mean, it's, you know, it's great to, you know, take your friends and family to go see a classic movie because they don't show new releases, but, you know, they show classic films, which is great. They show kid films, which is great. And occasionally they get somewhat big acts. They're not very big. They're usually country artists, which, you know, that's the demo here. So, you know, it's a lot of money, but it shows that was the wrong way to do it, you know, because it hasn't fundamentally changed our city at all. So, you know, we still have the rundown buildings and abandoned storefronts, just like every other Rust Belt city area.
Right, because you've essentially socialized the business, and that's what West Virginia has done for a long period of time, at least in its past, and relied off the coal industry. So obviously that's not going to work anymore with the, you know, between federal regulation and international regulation through the UN and stuff like that. I like to bring it up, remind people often that just about every single building code everywhere is regulated by the UN, whether you know it or not. So it's just how it goes. And that's the thing is I would like to bring liberty-minded people here. I actually helped a guy move into well, I didn't help him move yet. He's on his way here, but buy a house down in Hardy County. So, you know, vet, you know, liberty-minded guy, but he's living out in California for work, as far as I know. And he wanted to come out this way, found some land, and, you know, I went and looked at the property for him and all that, and hopefully he'll be moved in here in about a week.
So I might have missed this. Do you live in West Virginia too?
Yeah. I'm in Berkeley
I didn't
County.
realize that. I'm sorry.
Oh, yeah. No, I was a Marylander most of my life. I moved down here when I was about 30. So, because Maryland was getting stupid about gun laws. I live in, grew up in Western Maryland. Western Maryland is basically West Virginia.
Yeah.
And, I was like, well, screw this. I'm not letting Baltimore and Annapolis and PG County dictate my life anymore.
Yeah, I heard you say Hagerstown. I lived in Shepherdstown, West Virginia for a lot of my life. Well, a third of my life so far, I guess. I lived there shoot, I guess a quarter of my life at that point now. But
yeah, I'm around the corner from. I'm in the Falling Waters area without getting too specific. But yeah,
cool. Yeah.
So I'm open about it, but you always wonder about the crazies out there. The Antifas.
Sure. Yeah, I got you. I didn't want to ask you directly, but that, I grew up south of Hagerstown in Jefferson County, West Virginia, and I attended college in Pittsburgh, and to pretty much my family's ancestral home in West Virginia, which is Clarksburg and Harrison County. So I've lived here since 2003, but I haven't lived in Clarksburg. Excuse me, I've lived in Clarksburg since 2006. But I've lived in the area since 2003. But before that, I grew up in the Eastern Panhandle of West Virginia. So yeah, I'm familiar with the Hagerstown area.
Yeah. I mean, I'm like, I'm not going to name roads, but my area basically was a back road. It'll take me to Shepherdstown in about 15, 20 minutes.
Oh yeah,
so
yeah, absolutely.
It's quite windy though, and it's right by the river. So,
yeah.
Anyways, yeah. So me and my wife, we would like to move further southwest into the state. There are a lot of states I would like to a lot of counties I would like to get liberty-minded people in, because there are basically a strip, double wide of counties that run along the border of Virginia that are sparsely populated and do have some potential, but the land's a little rugged. So it's a matter of what you like.
Now, the problem with that land too is it's federally, it's a state forest, and
some of it is, but not all of it.
You can't develop it.
Yeah. Some of it is, but I've been finding a lot of properties backing right up to the national forests. And stuff like that.
They're very pricey, because then you have access to the state forest.
Right.
So, yeah, I'm familiar with those areas too. We have an adopt a highway spot down there for my mom. She passed away in 2002, and we have an adopt a highway there in Pocahontas County. So yeah, I'm familiar. I'm familiar with West Virginia pretty well. I love it. It's a great state for liberty-minded folks. We have despite my issue with Republicans and conservatives, I am a mostly conservative guy. So I don't have a problem with a lot of the things that our legislature does. When they go overboard, are giving huge tax breaks to corporations and trying to do some crazy stuff, obviously on every level. With the size and scope of government, yeah, I have issues with that. But for the most part, it's a great place to live. It's the cost of living is low. They are obviously, the Second Amendment is huge. I can do a lot of things that a lot of other people in other states can't.
50% of the state owns a gun. So,
yeah.
As I always say, it's pretty likely if you come to my neighborhood and start a problem that every other house will have a firearm in it.
Yeah. So I really can't complain there. Yeah, there's lack of opportunity for young people, but I believe the state is slowly rectifying those issues. At least the legislature is, and we just have to get over the stigma of the lack of opportunity and entertainment. I think that's another big issue that we have. State parks and beautiful country and stuff like that only goes so far. Young people, regardless of how they feel about politically, where they sit on the spectrum, rather, they want entertainment, and they want to be somewhat close to amenities. And West Virginia suffers with that. I mean, we have beautiful state parks, yeah, but they're owned by the state, obviously.
Right. Well, so, right here, our friend Ahari says something. A big push in rural areas is connectivity, faster internet speeds, and that's true, man. I mean, out here we're getting right at the moment. They just tore up my front yard a few weeks back, Frontiers Lane line, and we have really good internet because we're basically a suburb of DC out here.
I'm familiar.
Yeah. Yeah, but the more rural areas, but there is things like Starlink coming out and whatever else.
Mhm.
I see West Virginia being a great opportunity for a lot of things, given that a lot of people are fed up with, a lot of people are waking up to the realities of how the federal government operates, that it's not operating for the people or by the people, that it's operated
Sure.
under globalist conditions for their global plans, whatever that
Yeah,
may be. But it
absolutely.
has nothing to do with you or me as citizens. They don't care about us.
Mhm.
Um, so I think this would be a great place for a bastion of liberty. I know that the Free State Project was looking at West Virginia, but there's no ports here, so they abandoned it.
Hmm.
I don't need to secede from the Union, though. I don't, and I don't think New Hampshire is going to either.
Yeah.
So I think that more libertarians should be looking at West Virginia,
Oh
especially
yeah.
on the East Coast, especially how close it is to DC.
Sure.
There are a lot of things around. There are a lot of bigger cities, if you just are willing to drive a few hours. I mean, I live 4 hours from New York City, guys,
Yeah.
so it's not that far.
Mhm.
um
Yeah, yeah. We're here locally. We're about 2 hours south of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania.
yeah,
Uh, an hour and a half from Charleston, the state capital, which, all things considered, isn't the greatest for entertainment either. But it's changing. It is. But at the same time, things are changing in Charleston as far as the political spectrum, and that happens when you have big cities. I think that's the part of the liberty mindset is like, you want to be super free, but ultimately you're going to create an area where people come that they don't really want to be super free. They want
right.
they want to make money like everybody else, but at the same time they're not a big fan of freedom or liberty, and
Well, that's funny
you
because
kind of have to deal with that.
yeah, that's funny because I think that has to do with a lack of connectivity to our natures, what human beings are, how we would live without a mommy and daddy state and taking care of us. And that's one of the problems with the modern generations coming up. I may not look it, but I am a 41-year-old man. I have a 17-year-old daughter, and you know I know how her generation was raised. I know how I was raised, um, and I know the older I get and the more I've learned, the more history and philosophy I've studied over the years. The well, as a joke goes with us, it's a joke, but Uncle Ted was right, kind of thing, and that Ted Kaczynski preached about technology weakening human
Yeah.
beings, but it actually does to some degree. I'm not a Luddite, but I'm just saying that there's a thing that cities create. They impose a
Mhm.
prison upon people. They get in their little cubicles, they get in their little bubbles inside their apartments. They don't know anyone. They're disconnected,
Yeah.
and they basically put themselves in their own zoos, if you would.
Sure. Yeah.
And I think that's that's a dysfunctional society. It's not healthy, but I know people want to do that.
Mhm.
I often look at Dunbar's number and think, how far can we scale that up? So if you aren't aware of Dunbar's number, that is um, the number, the idea of this number, that we can only have so many connections in our lives that are actually truly intimate. And it's about 150 people. It goes back to tribalism, and
Interesting.
they get this number based on the size of your brain, basically looking at different animals and their social groups. And so I feel like once we get up to, you start getting up to 10, 20,000 people, anything really bigger than that, you're really disconnected. And then it's really easy for the people in power to not be held in any sort of account. And for the masses to go, we want you to have more power. We want you to have more privilege. We want you to
Yeah.
do more tyrannical things. And we want you to protect us, oh,
Mhm.
great state, mommy and daddy.
Yeah.
That seems to be a quick summation of how human nature works for me. And what I would like to build is smaller networks of communities that isn't based on the old model of that city center. That's a
Mhm.
very kind of old fashioned way of thinking. I understand it because the way resource allocation used to work centuries ago, but times have changed, right?
Yeah.
So I don't know. Any thoughts on that? I know it's a random rant, but
Well, going back to what Dari was saying, with internet connectivity, and you hinted at it a little bit. I guess we're backpedaling here, but Frontier and other companies are laying cable, fiber optics all across the state right now. They're putting them down U.S. Route 33, which is a big 4-lane road from Elkins to Weston, pretty much. They're putting them on U.S. Route 50 from Clarksburg to Parkersburg, which is a 4-lane road that is roughly 60 miles through nowhere. So they're running this cable across the state, north and south, east and west, and we will have that internet eventually. But I think there's going to be areas of West Virginia that it's going to take several years to get it. Well, I have a cat walking in on me here, maybe, but
Oh, you're fine. You're fine.
so it's interesting to see what they're doing, and they will have an internet eventually. But when I lived in first moved to Clarksburg, we had Frontier. Well, first it was Verizon. Verizon fled West Virginia. Now we have Frontier. My Frontier DSL. I never had more than 3 or 4 megs a second. That's all I had. And finally Spectrum Spectrum came to town, and they were able to give us 100 megs a second. So just recently, Frontier came back in and put fiber optic all throughout my neighborhood, and they're advertising 500 megs or I think a second. So it is improving. It's taking time, but I live in a city. I live in like I said, a 15,000 person city. I live in a neighborhood here. A borough, I guess, of the city, you could call it. And, my internet for several years was, way below the national average. It was just a step up from dial-up, really.
Well, I think a lot of that, too, is like, what you hear from the supposed leaders in D.C. or the propagandists on TV, and they're like, you have the flyover countries looking at it with a stain, or the West Virginian hillbilly who doesn't know any better, and all that kind of stuff. And it's like, it's not really, maybe that there is some of that, but that's not really the reality. Most of the people are normal people like anywhere else. And frankly, you're going to find rednecks in any state you go to. So,
sure.
Yeah.
It's a long lineage of people that have lived here for, hundreds of years, that they've always been kind of a mountain type people, Appalachians. So that's the kind of people we are. And going back to some of the comments that we made earlier about the former senator, Senator Byrd, and the West Virginia was dominated by moderate Democrats for decades, but they were in all shapes and forms were basically conservative Republican type people that were very proud union people. They supported union. They supported the working class, and those are gone. People, those people have either moved away, their children have moved away, or they've passed away. So here's kind of the situation we live in now. We're very conservative state, and we're riding that the Republican kind of populist ideals of Trump and others, that they are the party that is now West Virginia. So we went from 80 years of Democrat control at their state house to we're a Republican supermajority since basically 2010, 2012. So that's when it started switching over. But
right. Despite the Democrats insisting that the Southern strategy was a thing, aside from whatever Lee Atwater said. Yes, the parties did not switch. The South turned red. It started in the 90s, and it did not get complete till about 2010.
Absolutely.
And a big part of that was economic opportunity, for sure. West Virginia hasn't seen as much of that, except for with federal buildings, from what I understand.
Oh my! Let me talk about the federal government. So
please go on.
I heard a study several years ago. This was probably 2012 or 2013. Harrison County, where I live at, 1 out of 3 people in Harrison County worked for some level of government, whether it be the federal, state, county, municipal, school board. And so 1 out of 3. And at the same time, 1 out of 7 West Virginians total receive some type of public assistance. So we live in an area that is definitely heavy government, whether it's people at the very bottom or people at the very top. So it was a definitely interesting experience, especially in my campaigns, as one as a registered Libertarian twice for House of Delegates, and 2 city council campaigns. A lot of people I met work for the government, and it's true. There's we're dominated. We used to be dominated by industry, and they were all union workers, and very proud people, and families of immigrants that mainly Italian and European. So now we're people of government. That's the industry left. We're now government.
and there is a minor push. I don't think that they have any real steam, but you have the Mountain Party and other groups like that want to totally socialize. I forget who the lady was. I used to call her the AOC of West Virginia that was running for Congress.
I know who exactly you're talking
She's
about.
down in the Capitol. Yeah, she had some whole video talking about the water supply. Yeah.
The name's right on the tip of my tongue. I know exactly.
She was like, I want to ban workers, the workers' rights, like the not workers' rights, but the Right to Work Act that you can leave or someone can fire you at any point. And I'm like, so what? You're just going to unionize everything? That's not good.
She actually left the Democratic Party. Man, the name escapes me at the moment. She left the Democratic Party. I'm sorry.
Do you have something playing in the background there? I think you might have hit something by accident.
No, I don't think so.
What in the world is that?
What does it sound like?
That is me. Sorry. I don't know why video randomly played.
It's okay.
I always have stuff pulled up because if we get to it, but I don't think we're going to get to any real news.
Like I said, the name of that lady escapes me at the moment, but she actually left the Democratic Party and joined the Mountain Party, if I remember correctly. So
well, and if you look at all of our backing, it was all they were all Bernie bros, and then in the end, it came down to like Act Blue, which is connected to the Democrat Party. So it's not really they're not really
congressional campaigns and others, but the Mountain Party, if I remember correctly, is still under. I think it's like under 5,000 registered voters. The Libertarian Party of West Virginia is the fastest growing party in the state of West Virginia. It has been for the last several years. Even after our Secretary of State, Mac Warner, called voter rolls, the Libertarian Party still remains the fastest growing party in the state of West Virginia. We're almost to 10,000 registered voters. So, there's our convention there.
Yeah, we're gonna. I figured to bring it up since you brought it up.
Sure.
No, I know you guys asked me, and I've just been talking to you to get you on here about registering with you all. I'm iffy about those things. Like I like being independent for various reasons, but I would if there's a candidate I supported for sure. More than anything, though, for me it's about getting a message out. Right? It's not like I don't vote because I do, and I would vote for any great candidate. But I think sometimes there's strategies involved, which is why I also liked talking about the Mises caucus, because they're not so much afraid to back Republicans on occasion instead of just the party. Now, you're a party member, so what do you think about that as far as strategy? You're backing a Republican maybe, or infiltrating the Republican Party more than trying to build up the Libertarian Party? Because I know there are different strains of thoughts on this, and I don't know if you have a take.
I think at this point, if you would want to, in at least in West Virginia, be a Libertarian, but register as a Republican and run as a Republican on, say, a Libertarian kind of platform, I believe you would win easily. I think at this point, there's a lot of people in our state, and I follow West Virginia politics very closely, and there's a lot of people in the state that are fed up with some of the GOP leadership in Charleston. For not doing things that they should be doing, like ending Jim Justice's executive orders.
I was trying to get Jim primaried, and just people would not listen to me around here. I was like, you cannot vote him back in. Why did he put coronavirus restrictions upon us the way that he did, when the only counties that were really vulnerable to that were Berkeley County here where I live and Jefferson County? I mean, he was like, because we're so close to Virginia, and it's like, like rural Virginia, maybe.
Well, again, I know a lot of Republican candidates who, tried to go against the GOP machine and lost, and they get shunned out of committees in the state house. They get removed. Their parking spot gets put to the furthest from the Capitol. Literally, that's what happens in Charleston.
No, I know these things happen. I know,
and so
it's so petty. It's so petty.
And so they get ostracized, and they remain Republican, and I think you have to deal with that. So I got a cat crying in the background, but she's a little old, so she gets lost. I think, I'm not quite sure, but
I can barely hear her. It's okay.
Anyway, there's a lot of issues with that in our state. So I've thought about it personally, and it's still an option for me. I plan on running again and at least 2026 when my term here on council ends, if not before that. I decided I was not going to run this time around. I've been running a perpetual campaign for the last 4 years. So, I'm going to take at least 2 years off, maybe consider it in 2024, if not 2026. But
running for state house, that is.
Yeah, and I will run for state house, whether it's as a libertarian, if I'm still involved with the party, and I hope I am. I hope that the party does great things and can win a race before that. That's our goal. So it's we want to win a race in Charleston. That's what we want to do, and that's the number one goal. But it may take several years, and hopefully the party can stick together and do great things. That's my plan as long as I'm here.
I think a generation or so, the state could become a very booming state for industry and for liberty-minded politics. I think the mountains allow us a certain amount of isolation and influence from outside influence, and it attracts a certain type of person. Like, you're not going to get rugged individualism when everything is handed to you and catered for you, like you said, living in a city. And as I was alluding to, those people like their prison. If you want to come to West Virginia, you're going to have to do with a little less probably, but you're not far from all the accoutrements you want. If you go to a bigger city, it really isn't that far away.
Not really.
Yeah, I'm an hour outside of DC.
Yeah. The Eastern Panhandle is a lot. I like to say there's two West Virginias. There's an Eastern West Virginia east of the Allegheny Mountains, and there's a West Virginia west of the Allegheny Mountains, and they are two totally different states. One reaps the benefits of being so close to the DC, Baltimore metropolitan area, Northern Virginia. The other one is a desolate Rust Belt area from north to south. And, there's some shining spots in those areas where cities are doing really good, like Bridgeport. The neighboring city that I live next to is doing really well. Clarksburg, on the other hand, is not. And we're separated by the interstate. Literally, that's it.
Right.
And so, Morgantown, West Virginia, is obviously a great place to live. But a lot of these places are becoming. I jokingly call them bastions of the left because the university towns attract young college students.
Morgantown's always been a party spot. Everyone knows the University of West Virginia.
But that's I think the average liberty person was not going to say I'm going to move to Morgantown. They're not going to move to Lewisburg. They're not going to move to Shepherdstown. I mean, those are like the most left-leaning areas of the state. Maybe Charleston and Huntington as well. But
Shepherdstown's pretty bad.
Oh yeah, trust me. Like I said, I used to live there. It was bad when I lived there.
There were Joe Biden signs driving through everywhere, and so they put a what is it? Insulation company in Jefferson County. Now, Jefferson County, for people who don't know, is very rural, very few towns, and mostly, I would say these days, maybe the last 20 years, absolutely a suburb of people who have some wealth, work in the DC area, right? And they live up this way for a more rural life and a little bit of cheaper living, right? So it's very blue there. And there was this place called Rockwool. I did security there on the construction site for a little bit. And they were putting this plant there for jobs. They have building insulation well below EPA standards, all their emissions and stuff. This is a Danish company. I've talked to the CEO and all that stuff. Very environmentally responsible. And you still have people trying to shut down that plant.
Oh yeah,
that's going to bring hundreds of jobs to the area.
Absolutely,
that don't exist unless you go.
I followed that very closely.
Like
I said, I lived in that area, and when that, of course, this was way after I lived there, decades almost after I lived there. But I still have a lot of friends in that area, so and family for that matter. So I followed that situation very closely. A lot of my friends from Shepherdstown are very left, but they're still my friends. I don't run people off. I might unfollow them on Facebook, but I don't run people off or attack them in their comments or anything like that. I see them on the street every once in a while, and I'm like, hey, I have no problem with dealing with people like that. It's for some reason it's mostly them. I don't know why that is, but
right. No, I agree with you. I have lefty friends as well. I know there are some people who, well, look, the having a lefty friend in some ways can be scary depending on what your lefty friend really believes in. But most of them, I believe, are just misguided and don't have enough faith in their own abilities or the abilities of other people. Yeah. For some reason, in their mind, they think once someone gets a certain position, that proves that they're a competent individual, and it does not. It just means that they schmooze the right people. Don't get me wrong. Meritocracy still does exist, but government is not a place for it.
Yeah.
And having 18 years or something of working for the government myself, I can tell you meritocracy is not a place or is not a thing in the government. It doesn't exist.
Yeah, absolutely,
So,
absolutely. Yeah, I followed the Rockwell situation very closely, and people were wanting me to share stuff, and they wanted me to join their Rockwell groups, and it was it was interesting to watch because obviously it was making statewide news over here too. People in Harrison County, people in Lewis County, people in the north central area of West Virginia where I live, they would kill you to have Rockwell here. I mean, they would put it in their backyard, no questions asked. Like, yep, right here, connect it to the city. We'll build a road for you.
The thing was, I worked for this little security company. I kind of was bouncing around jobs. I'd been injured myself and was trying to get a job, and I didn't know anything about it until I started working there, and then it was all under construction. There wasn't anything even, laid down or whatever. We had a guy show up one day. I was working. He's like, "Oh, what's all this?" And he was dressed really nice and whatever. He kind of he was like in his 50s. He kind of looked like he probably worked in the DC, and he was probably from Shepherdstown and all this stuff. And maybe he was a college professor. I don't know. And he was like, "Oh, what's all the secrecy about?" And I'm like, "There's no secrecy. You just drove up here." He's like, "But you can't come on the site." Well, why not? Because it's a construction site, you idiot. You can't just walk into a construction site.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. And so I got the foreman, who was a master sergeant in the Air Force, and retired. So he was pretty good to go. He's a cool guy, and he kind of set the guy straight. And he's like, "If you want a tour and all that stuff," he goes, "once we get some stuff done, it's safer. We can do all that probably. But right now is not the time, bud." And it's just like, where's your mind going? That this industry is going to pollute the entire area and destroy everything. Unless, I don't know why you would even go there and think about that unless you have the privilege and luxury and money to be concerned about those things, because everyone else who doesn't wants a freaking job. They want to pay their bills, so I just didn't get it.
Interesting to watch, that's for sure. Like I said, we would love to have that. Our industry is gone. I mean, we have a couple things in our area. We have a little industrial park in here in our area, and there's a couple small factories over there, mostly production stuff. There's like a coat hanger factory and other things, but the majority of our stuff now, at least locally, is administrative stuff, dealing with natural resources, obviously gas companies and stuff like that. And we big, back 10 years ago or more, we had the big gas boom. Probably actually 10 years ago or so, we had the big natural gas boom. Of course, fracking was the big keyword, and you didn't hear anybody complain about it, with the exception of what they were doing to the roads. I mean, that's it. It's everybody had a job that wanted to work, at least, whether it was working flags on country roads for trucks, driving trucks, working the wells. I mean, it was a time of boom in this area. And then, of course, things happen on the national level, as far as the presidency and other things, conflicts overseas and whatnot, brought the gas so low that it's no longer profitable to build new wells. Everything here is being pumped out of the ground, and that's it. There's no and that doesn't require a lot of labor. So, at least from my my experience, at least. But I at that time I worked in a print shop. And we did screen printing and decals and magnets and everything, and everything was done in house. And we were crushed. We couldn't take a break because you had all these oil and gas companies needing all this material. But once that died off, it's we're back to where we were at before the rush. Back which is basically a economy that's centered around government and administrative stuff.
Yeah, sorry, I was taking care of some spam there. Not usually, but
okay.
Spam in the comments. Yeah, so let's talk about the national party. You are the chairman, or sorry, not the national party, the state party. You are the chairman. What's going on in some other parts of West Virginia? Maybe you can talk about. Maybe you want to upsell this convention coming up here in Martinsburg.
Sure, we can talk about that. Yeah. So right now, the Libertarian Party of West Virginia is growing. I think I mentioned just a little bit ago, we're the fastest growing party in the state of West Virginia. We've got nearly 10,000 registered voters, which is the third largest party. Well, the third largest party the fourth largest overall registration style. Obviously, independent is a very large one as well. Or I'm sorry, no party. Let's not get that confused. That we could talk about that for hours too. But we are the fastest growing party in the state, and we have I believe at the moment 3 regional affiliates. One is in the Eastern Panhandle, and that's chaired by Brett Rogers and I think some other folks over there, Dave Valente, Tara Sheffer, who Dave's the former chair of the state party. Tara is the secretary of the party. We also have a Monongalia County Libertarians, which is the Morgantown area, where that's up near the university. We also have a Metro Valley affiliate, which I believe is down Kanawha County, near the Capitol, and in between Huntington and that area. So we've got some state affiliates. We got some more on deck that are going to be coming at this convention. So hopefully get those guys chartered. The party itself is having a statewide convention in Martinsburg on March 12th. Friday night, we're going to be gathering at Peddling Pints. Spike Cohen will be there, along with some other LNC candidates who are running for LNC. And hopefully it'll be a big event. There's 40 or so people saying that they're going to come already, so it should be pretty spectacular.
Holly's asking if the West Virginia government offers asylum to Canadian refugees.
I don't know if anybody made a statement as far as, from the State House. I know the governor didn't. In fact, I don't think the governor mentioned it at all. But I know there are several Republican members of the legislature who would definitely make comments like that. But I personally, I didn't see anything.
Well, I think she was more or less joking, but we did have a thing a few weeks ago because of the redistricting in Maryland, or potential redistricting, where the Western Maryland counties, Garrett, what's Cumberland, Garrett County, Cumberland County, Washington County, where I grew up, are wanting to come over to West Virginia.
Yeah. So yeah, we welcome them. Well, we'd love to have them.
Yeah. And even in Hagerstown, I mean, Trump stopped in Hagerstown during his campaign, knowing that that area between Western Maryland, Pennsylvania, and West Virginia, right below, very, very red, very, very conservative, libertarian minded. So, because it's all country, it's suburbanized and all that, but it's mostly very rural.
Yeah.
So yes, we have the convention coming up next Saturday. Yeah.
2 weeks from today, and like I said, we're having a big event Friday night, and then Saturday morning we're going to gather at a shooting range in southern part of Berkeley County, there off of 81, and shoot machine guns with DNA guns. They rent machine guns and other rifles and stuff like that, and so we've got some rentals. We've been selling rentals. Unfortunately, they're all sold out now, but you can still attend. You can still buy a ticket and attend the shoot and get a great barbecue lunch from Brett Rogers. He's from Martinsburg there, owns a Smoking Gnome barbecue food shack, food truck. So, he's going to be serving lunch there. Later that afternoon, we're going to go back to the hotel and gavel in and elect our delegates to the national convention, as well as nominate some candidates for state races across the state. Yeah, so all we have left is bronze packages, as you can see there. You get lunch. You can attend the gun range for $25. You can bring if you pay for a ticket, you can bring your own firearms. Just make sure you bring ear and eye protection and follow all the rules there at the range itself. But yeah, you're more than welcome to bring your own firearms.
Yeah, I was planning on going. I don't know if I can now because I got the date. I'm really bad with scheduling and dates, so I got the dates mixed up because my wife was going out of town for a night, and I had to take off work. So I don't know if I'll be scheduled, but I think I have to work that day now. But yeah, otherwise I would be there. But I would like to obviously keep in touch with you guys.
Sure. If you can't come out Saturday, come out Friday night. Like I said, that'll be a pretty big event. Hopefully, we'll have a big crowd at Peddling Pints there on I believe it's on Moeller Avenue there in Martinsburg.
Well, I'm pretty sure my wife and I met Brett before a few years back.
Okay.
A couple people out in this area, and they helped us out. I had an issue with my work, and then I can't remember the lady's name. The lady that was running for the governor,
Kalinich.
Yeah, she helped me. She didn't really do much, but she told me she would take my case if I wanted to sue WVU because I worked for them. I worked for them.
She is a trial attorney. That's right.
Yeah. I worked for the hospital, and I was security there, and my boss pulled some nonsense, tried to tell me I violated Fourth Amendment rights, and I tried to tell him, which is correct because I know the law, that no, we're private security. There is no Fourth Amendment right. And it had to do with a guy having a firearm. I found all this drugs, guns, all this stuff on this guy.
Oh, wow.
And I also cannot make legally, as a first responder, I've been a first responder for a long time, I cannot make a medical determination the way that a nurse can. And she told me he was incapacitated. And that was their whole issue. I didn't talk to the individual in question because he was incapacitated. Sorry. And if he woke up in the middle of the night and started shooting people, might have been a bigger deal. But in any case, I'm not going to get into all the details of the stuff my boss did, but I left immediately, and I talked to her. So I know that, liberty-minded people are willing to watch liberty-minded people's backs, and we need a lot of that. So anyways, well, what else to talk about, man? I'm not trying to rush through this, but I do want to keep it another half hour or so, but
sure.
Is there anything moving them other than the convention coming up that you might want to talk about? Any projects you guys are trying to work on? Anything like that?
Well, obviously, it is election season. We have primary elections coming up. I don't know if you know, but the Libertarian Party doesn't have a primary election here in West Virginia. We nominate all our candidates by convention. That's why this convention coming up, we'll nominate hopefully at least 5 or 6 candidates that day. I know that some other people have expressed interest in running for office as well. So again, we nominate our candidates at the convention. And then they automatically appear on the November ballot. So the Democrats and Republicans, they have, I guess, legal obligation to have a primary election because they're a major, like the Libertarian Party of West Virginia has major party status, but because they have so much a percentage of the electorate, the Democrats and Republicans have to have primary elections, unless there's, from what I understand, not enough candidates to fill that, I guess, primary. But we nominate by convention, and that's what we'll be doing here at this convention. And our goal this time around is to identify any races in the state that are unopposed or uncontested. So that's obviously, as a third party, or even though here in West Virginia the Libertarian Party again is a major party, as a third party, not a Democrat or Republican, our best shot at winning any race is an unopposed race, whether it's a Democrat or Republican versus a Libertarian.
Right. Yeah.
So we're looking for those races. I know as of I believe February 8th, there was 47 unopposed state house races and 7 unopposed state Senate races. Wow. So that's probably going to change. However, tomorrow is the deadline for Democrats and Republicans to they are allowed to nominate as well if nobody files to run. So they can go throughout their executive committees by county, or find somebody in the county that may be able to win an election. They can just nominate somebody, but their deadline for that is tomorrow. So tomorrow we're going to have a better idea on how many unopposed races we have left. And like I said, my goal as a chair is to identify them and put people into those races, regardless of how serious they want to run. If they just want to be on the ballot, that's okay. I'm not going to twist anybody's arm to go out there and spend money, because as somebody who has done that, I know how expensive it can be, and I know how much work it can be. And, I'm not, like I said, I'm not going to twist anybody's arm to do it. However, we may come across a situation where we have a really good shot, and, we're going to probably, look into fundraising and other things to get this person some money and, maybe drive it home and for a win.
Yeah, it sounds good. We have a friend of the channel's Josh, that's Joshua Ham, that's running for Texas State House, and he's trying to win. But one of the things he wanted to do was kind of go through the process so he could help educate people on how to get involved. But him and I have talked often, not recently, but we talk often. He may move up this way, and I'm sure he would probably want to get involved. I may in the future want to run for office because I'm getting so sick and tired.
I was going to ask
you. Well, right now I have a newer wife. She's not as she's what we've been together 4 years now, but I have a 8-month-old. So other priorities. And I also am a little bit more concerned about, like I said, getting a little bit more southwest and inward toward the state and getting away from this kind of DC suburb. Like, it is insane, man. If you drive up through here, the amount of construction going on. Because people want to get out of DC, they want to get out of Maryland, and they want to get out of Nova. Except for they bring their freaking politics here, and that's not good. That's not good.
I've got you mentioned. I know several people right now who are buying property in Mineral and Hardy and Hampshire and those counties that you're probably talking about, and they're doing the same thing. They're leaving Northern Virginia. They're leaving Maryland. They're leaving the DC area, and they're saying we're done. But these people are pretty sane people. I wouldn't write them off just yet, but
right. Well, and some of them are like decent, kind of more conservative libertarian people. Don't get me wrong, but I mean, there's always someone like and I actually have like bigger business plans I want to do in the future, but it's a matter of getting the capital, right? Sure. But there is like we do have Tim Pool. He's out in Jefferson County.
Yeah, I've heard that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, he's over in Maryland. It's his studio, but he's in Jefferson County, and he's trying to build a new studio with a big plot of land. He's calling it Freedomistan, and they're going to have a gun range there and all this other stuff. So that's cool. But Jefferson County is really not the place to do that at. It's the furthest, it's the furthest east you can go in West Virginia. You need to go more west.
The good news is, and this goes back to the two West Virginias I talk about. Despite you may have, Jefferson, Berkeley, Morgan, and maybe a couple of those counties like Mineral that may end up adopting, like blue or Democrat or liberal members of the legislature. However, the rest of the state will be so predominantly red that they're like John Doyle from Jefferson County, and there's a few, I think two other ones that are in the Eastern Panhandle that are Democrats, if I remember correctly. I could be wrong, but I do know John Doyle's out there. Obviously, he's one of the most liberal members of the West Virginia legislature. But they're never going to have the power to move anything at the state house. It would have to be a complete reversal to go back to that period. So you might have the local people there in that area who are very Democrat, very liberal, very progressive. But at the end of the day, the laws coming from Charleston will never be that. Now, county commissions and other things, that's a different story.
That's more what I'm worried about, because the state house is important too. But like, for instance, I know that they were trying to have they were looking at putting a bill in, or not necessarily, but they were looking at the idea of a vaccine mandate. Yeah. And so I don't know if you know who Michael Cisco is, but I know Michael. I was going to support him because I know him. He's got more kind of extreme policies, but it's against globalism, like whatever. But anyways, Michael's one of those guys that you got to know him, but there's media presence that he's got certain connections, like with Nick Fuentes and whatever else. So he gets smeared a lot by like Right Wing Watch and all that kind of stuff. Mm-hmm. And I found that too with a lot of libertarians are awful in those things. They're not so much aware of the cultural politics going on, and what are memes and what's real, who, versus like a lot of libertarians were against Trump, and I didn't vote for Trump the first time, but I was like, man, he's a wrench in the wheels. He's going to screw it up some. I like the gridlock. I like the fighting. Yeah, because we're too far gone. And so a reason why I was going to support Michael, he's dropped out now, is because he was going to run against McKinley, and McKinley's got to go. That guy has got to go. Yeah, in my opinion. So
I agree. I think Mooney has a lot better shot.
He does, and that's a big reason why Michael dropped out.
But I still think it's probably not as tight. Well, let me rephrase that. It's probably maybe a little bit closer than we may think, rather. I think McKinley is very popular with seniors. However, all he has to do, Mooney, is come out and stout that Trump endorsement and other things, and that'll be it for the rest of West Virginia. But or the rest of the district rather. But I think Mooney's got a pretty good shot at winning, although it may be a little tighter than I guess we think. But
yeah, I just he wanted the Build Back Better infrastructure bill, which is obviously straight from the World Economic Forum and the UN and all the globalists. He's like the 29th or 28th most bipartisan member of Congress. That I don't want bipartisanship, folks. I want either gridlock or I want liberty-minded laws. I don't want bipartisanship, though. That is how we get more globalism. It's how we have the uniparty system, right? So, yeah, I would have supported Mooney. I probably would have looked at where Cisco's campaign was and whatever. But in any case, there's so much stuff outside of what you see in the news and the media and whatever of who these people are. And there's a lot of that people are still trapped in the cycle of, as Trump coined it, the fake news. Actually, Trump didn't coin it. That was a Hillary Clinton campaign strategy they were going for, and Trump flipped it on their heads. So, and that is a historical fact. You guys can go dive into that if you want. But in any case, when it comes to the Congress and all that stuff and the federal level, I'm more concerned with the local stuff. But are you all running those candidates as well here in West Virginia? Or are you just kind of letting the Republicans ride, or what's going on there?
On the congressional and Senate?
Yeah.
As far as I know, we don't have anybody lined up. I know there was a prominent guy in the Libertarian Party of West Virginia here, David Moran. He's one of the founding fathers of the Libertarian Party of West Virginia. He was talking about finding the right candidate to run in the congressional race. And as far as I know, nobody's really stepped up. We've had a few people reach out to the party talking about running. There was a veteran guy, and the name escapes me at the moment, but he gave us a really lengthy speech at a board meeting a few months ago saying he was going to run, but I haven't heard from him since. So I don't know how that'll work out.
Right.
Personally, I'm not a big fan of running these big races. Why? Because unless somebody who is willing to put a lot of money and work into it, it's probably not going to be worth it to somebody. Now, there's a lot of people we've had these people in the past. David Moran is one of them. They run, they get on the ballot, they don't do much, and that was, I'm not terribly opposed to that. I'm not, but it's not really doing a service for the direction that I want to see the party go into here on the state level. I want to win a House race. Whether it's me, who I'm going to try my hardest here in a few years to get back into it, or somebody else. Our goal is to get somebody into Charleston, because that is going to be big. It's going to be bigger than getting 20,000 votes in a Senate race on a statewide race.
I honestly don't really care about the Congress or the Senate, other than trying to stop the march to globalism.
Would I like to have a candidate in those races? I'd love to, but at the same time, I don't know if it's really worth it for our party. Again, I want to send people to Charleston. I want to send people to county commissions. I want to send people like me to city councils. And here in Harrison County, we have every single elected Libertarian in West Virginia resides in my county, and I'm fairly good friends with both of them. And he's Austin Lynch is another one. He's on Stonewood City Council, and we're trying to get him to run for the state Senate race, which hopefully will be an unopposed, uncontested race against a Republican. So, we're looking into that. But that's the goal of the party, because it's going to be so much bigger for our party and the national party across the entire state, the nation. To have the first Libertarian in Charleston, that it's going to be that big. So that's my goal. I don't know if it's attainable, but we're going to try like hell to make it happen.
Now, if we do that, if we take over the state, right, the liberty-minded folks, can we get rid of seatbelt laws and the ATF in West Virginia?
Well, let's dive into it.
In case you don't, anyone listening, you don't know, the ATF has a huge presence in West Virginia. So,
absolutely, I'm well aware of that. I'm well aware of that out of Martinsburg there. So, so the Republican supermajority in the House and Senate have yet to get rid of the helmet law, the motorcycle helmet law, which something that they've talked about for the last several years. Still haven't got rid of it. What was the other one? ATF enforcement in the state here. I mean, obviously, I don't know if we can kick them out, get them off their property.
Well, Texas is
However,
saying they're going to handle all their stuff, right? Internally now. So silencers, all that stuff. So yeah.
So the supermajority last legislative session here in West Virginia passed a somewhat watered down enforcement law that says the state authorities will not enforce any type of new federal laws that may be passed or executive orders that may be passed. So that was a great move. Obviously, it wasn't as strong as the West Virginia Citizens Defense League, which the shirt I'm wearing here, I don't know if you can see it, but they're a super great Second Amendment organization here in West Virginia. If you're not a member, go be a member tomorrow. They have a really great website, wvcdl.org. Be a member. It's $25 a year. They do great things at the state capitol. Right now, they just passed an ordinance to the governor. He's hopefully sign it that allow West Virginians to carry loaded rifles as defense weapons in your car. So
nice.
That was the big one they moved. Obviously, they're still trying to get campus carry through the state house. Excuse me. And that's going to be a tougher fight because the connections with the president of the university and obviously the Capitol. They're going to fight like hell to keep guns off campus. So
yeah, I remember the debate when we went to constitutional carry, and it was the most absurd thing ever. It was like basically, if you put a jacket on, you're concealed carry now. If you carry outside the waistband, and they were like, well, we thought there would be things, and the law enforcement isn't comfortable with this. I'm like, what are you talking about? Like, no, I worked for the Washington County Sheriff's Department, and I knew guys that were like, I think it's going to be crazy now they have constitutional carry. And I'm like, yeah, that's because you're an idiot. You don't understand human nature. You don't understand people. You think that because you work in law enforcement that you're better than other people. I don't think that. I never thought that, so, and
no, anyway. Yeah, I mean, I remember I've been a volunteer, a member of the WVCDL for 9 years now. And I remember both sessions where, the first time it got vetoed by the governor, not enough time to override the veto. Next session it came, we got it passed with enough time to override the governor's veto. So, again, if you're going to be a part of one organization, and it's not going to be the Libertarian Party of West Virginia, go out and be a member of the West Virginia Citizens Defense League. It's a great organization if you support West Virginia's Second Amendment rights.
Sure. All right, man. Well, Will, I'll have to have you back on and be maybe a little bit more prepared or something. We'll talk some more in the future.
Sure.
But I think I'm going to leave it there for today because, like I said, unfortunately, I have somewhere to be.
I understand.
And, well, it's also a friend that, I mean, it's a longtime friend, but I don't get to see him a lot. And I'm close enough to his family. I know everyone in his family pretty well. So it is, and I knew his mother. And it is one of those things where it's a sad thing, and he's had enough tragedy in his life too in the last couple of years. So I want to be there to support him. In any case, do you have anything to shout out, links where people can find you, or where they can get involved, anything like that?
Yeah, well, you can check out the state party's page on Facebook. That's Libertarian Party West Virginia. We also have a Twitter page too. We don't really do much on that, but you can always reach me on Facebook. Just search for my name, Will Hyman. We also have a Facebook group for the Libertarian Party of West Virginia. You can join that as well. But if other than that, you can find me on Facebook. That's about it.
And if anybody's in the area that sees this and wants to go, you can sign up. The link is in the description here on YouTube. I don't know about over on Entropy because they don't really have any links or anything like that, or I didn't put anything over on DLive. But if you're watching over there, you'll have to go find this on YouTube. And guys, next week, I'm going to try to have the Rumble up and running. I'm going to work on the Odysee because YouTube's really just not sustainable. I know, and this is kind of housekeeping, but before I go, I know you all recall, I told you back some odd months ago, I took like a month and a half break because I couldn't get another strike. And I appealed and I never got an answer back. Well, sure enough, last week, I think it was the 12th of February, I got my answer back that my appeal was rejected. My appeal from all the way back in September or something like that I sent. So that's YouTube for you. Anyways, guys, I'm going to get out of here. Like I said, I'll be back next Sunday for the Siesta stream. I might try and do a video too during the week. I want to talk about some James Lindsay stuff, critical race theory. I want to go through the long march of communism and how this is overt in the schools and all that. I really want to talk about this a lot more and focus on it. So if I can get some time. I may not live stream, but I might do a pre-recorded video. So look out for that. If not, that Friday I mentioned, the 11th, that I'm not working. I'll probably stream then, but that's like 2 weeks from now, right? So until that time, I guess I'll see you guys over on All Minus One, or sorry, here over on All Minus One next Sunday, or over on the Ends Justify the Memes. With all that said, guys, this has been All Minus One. My name is Bill, and I wish you all well. All right, take care, guys.